Well, the Knicks destroy the Boston Celtics, and the score really doesn't matter. They got destroyed. And they were destroyed, or they got destroyed, the Boston Celtics, maybe by the end of the second quarter, halftime, definitely by the third quarter, right? Because we can't write a team off by halftime. That would be ridiculous. And a lot of times you can't write a team off in the third quarter, but this was a write-off in a butt whooping, in a plea for mercy, in a give up, and just something sad to see when guys are making 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, and 50 million a year. This is what we don't want to see. Guys just give up, right? And for the Boston Celtics, this was a championship team at that gave up. Okay, when I look at New York, they don't have that much talent that you should be giving up, that you should be getting your butt whooped. Okay, Jaylen Brown had the biggest contract in NBA history a couple years ago, and that was telling us that this guy was a superstar, right? That kind of contract. So who are the superstars on the Knicks? There's none. They have stars on the Knicks. They played pretty good in the last game, in game 5. Porzingis, this guy is, wow. He didn't even show up in this series. He really hasn't been showing up in the playoffs, period. And they gave this guy all this money to come over, and he had one good season, and that was last year. And guys like this need to just retire and leave, because wow, like I told you guys, most of these players don't deserve this money, and I tell them to their faces. You work 9 hours a week. You play 3 games a week. 3 hours you play 3 hours in a game, and you work 9 hours a week. So when somebody tells me about counting a black man's money or counting any man's money, that's basically working 3 hours a day and working 9 hours a week and can't even show up and do what they get paid for. Yeah, I tell them to their face, they don't deserve the money. Yeah, I want you to tell them to their faces that they do deserve 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 million a year for working 9 hours a week. Tell them. You tell them they deserve it, and look how foolish you will look just saying those words. Just because you're a professional basketball player doesn't give you the right. You don't have rights to make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 million a year and not even show up. You're not allowed to come to your work and give a lackluster performance all the time and still get paid and still have a job. Hell, or work 3 hours a day, or work 9 hours a week. That's making part-time people look like they're working overtime. So, with that being said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This needs to be said. The Boston ring last year was fugazi. It was a bubble gum ring. It goes in with the bubble rings. That's what the Boston Celtics run last year was. It was fugazi. And like I said, to satisfy me, they would at least have to get to the finals. They didn't have to win the finals, but they at least had to get to the finals. Okay? Just like OKC this year, they at least have to get to the finals, or their season was fugazi to me. They was just beating up on a whole bunch of, once we're able to sit back and really look at the competition in the West, who was they really beating? Who was OKC really putting up this differential up against? Who was it? That's all. If you're a Boston fan, I don't care. I don't care. The ring was fugazi. They played nobody but a bunch of busted up, broke, and hurt dudes or teams last year, and they were going to lose. It didn't even matter if Jayson Tatum was going to stay healthy. Ain't no way they was going to pull out, 4 straight games. I don't think it was going to happen. And You look at this series, and Boston had no interest in playing in the paint, no interest in trying to get rebounds. They was not interested in anything inside the 3-point line. And they had the nerve to tell you this was one of the greatest teams of all time last year when they won the championship. Guys who are allergic to being touched. Wow. I got to fire Coach Mazzulla. You're gone. And that's hard to say for a guy who won the championship last year, but this is this era. Remember, this is this era. Remember, they fired the Denver's head coach. They fired the Denver's head coach. They fired him. He won a ring the year before last, and I think Frank Vogel, he was like a year removed from winning the ring, and they fired him. So to me, it's just the way they got beat. And the way they went down 0-2. And, this guy was able to make any adjustments. And the fact that his ring was Fugazi last year. Yeah. I will fire this dude. He's a joke. He took somebody else's team and won a Fugazi championship last year. Yep, he took somebody else's team, somebody that got fired. Another coach that got fired. And he took his team and won a Fugazi championship. Now, for the Knicks, I think I looked this up, but best record of all time, I want to say this Knicks team is the 21st. Had the 21st best record of all time in the regular season. When I looked this up, it was weird because the Knicks only have 260-win seasons in their entire history. Two. Which is crazy because Michael Jordan has, if I'm mistaken, 5. The Bulls in 90. Let me see. Let me make sure I get this right. 23, 20, 24. I might have been wrong. Okay, here it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, it might be 12. They got the 12th best record in the NBA. Well, not in the NBA. The best regular season, the 12th best Knicks regular season record of all time. I don't know where to really gauge this Knicks team. I've been watching basketball for a long time, man. And this is not a good team. This is not this is not one of the better teams I've ever seen. And to me, I don't even know if they're the 12th best regular season Knicks team I've ever seen. I just don't think they're the 12th best Knicks team I've ever seen. I'm sorry. To me, they're not that good. Yes, they have heart. They're scrappy. They have drive. But to me, the only consistent guy on this team is Jalen Brunson. This guy is a beast. This guy reminds me of a little Isaiah Thomas. And if this guy had any consistent help, which is crazy to me because, how they were able to beat Boston without another consistent player is just mind-blowing. It's just straight mind-blowing how they're it's just, and that's why I have to say that Boston ring last year is Fugazi. It's Fugazi ring. I can't do it, man. And they got to blow up this, or not blow up this team. They got to fire this head coach. I don't know if Horford's going to come back next year. It's a lot to be said when, sports and fitness rants. He talks about Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum should be like a Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan type of duel, type of Batman and Robin. None of them ever has made a defensive team. Yes, both of them can give you, 25 to, I would say, 24 to 30 points per game. But if they could make a defensive team and they really play hardcore defense, they should be running this league. For the superstar, Jaylen Brown has superstar status since he was the highest paid player in NBA history. Well, he got the biggest contract in NBA history a couple years ago. So they were telling us he was a superstar. Well, he's not when we looked at his resume. And I don't know, man. Al Horford ain't coming back. Drew Holiday didn't show up. I think he was hurt this regular season. And that's no excuse. They blew through the first round. They had a great regular season. And they basically had the same guys. And injury is not an excuse because, that's just how it is. Denver Nuggets been playing with a lot of injuries the past few years. Any championship team that goes on a run has injuries. To me, a lot of these guys, the style that they play, they have no reason to be playing in the Olympics. It's just too exhausting on their body, the way they run and gun and play. And I think two of these guys went to the Olympics and played on his team. Who was it? Tatum and Drew Holiday. I don't know, but we'll see with the Knicks, man. This is... They could make it to the finals. They could make it to the finals if they beat Boston. I mean, we'll see what happens, man. I mean, I don't really think that, like I said, it's a scrappy team. They got heart. But, they're going to have to play the Pacers now. The Pacers ain't going to let off the gas. And off top, the Pacers will come play the Knicks. I think the Knicks won one more game in this series. And this might be one of the highest watched games of all time. This might be something that the NBA, has been waiting for. You're going to have the Knicks and the Pacers, which I'll talk about that in a minute. And you're going to have the Timberwolves and whoever. If it's OKC or if it's Denver. I think the NBA rather have Denver. No problem with OKC, but I think they'd rather have Denver for more ratings because Denver is already established as far as, names. And that team already won a championship. So if you had Denver and the Timberwolves, I think that matchup will be bigger. And now that Anthony Edwards is already 1 year closer, and people thinking he can, actually take a foot forward. I mean, look, Anthony Edwards is still young, man. His career ain't, his feet ain't too deep into the NBA, but I don't know, man. These we're talking about legacy right here. He doesn't have to win, but if he comes in this series against OKC and Denver and stinks it up, remember, Julius Randle has been playing great. And if he has an off series, this thing could turn ugly. Especially, if Anthony Edwards can't carry the load. Because you're looking at an OKC team, everybody can put up points. And they can defend, and you're looking at a Denver team, everybody can put up points. So I'm just saying it could turn ugly real fast for, the Timberwolves. But, those series should be good ratings for the NBA. This is what the NBA needs. They don't need LeBron James. They need him to shut up and move out and move on. So, these big names can do the damn thing because these are the NBA's new big names and they need to be touted like that. They need to be advertised like that. The Halliburtons and the Brunsons and the Joker and the SGA. These are the big names. We don't need LeBron James to continue to destroy the NBA. He's not winning. MVP. So, I mean, you ain't won an MVP since 13. That's crazy. It's like a sour taste in somebody's mouth that you can't get rid of. It's 13? You've been on the defensive team since 14. You ain't won a real championship since 16. And it took you game 7. You won a bubble chip in 20. That nobody respects. And yada, yada, yada. I mean, we can go down the list of the trades and, superstar players and missing the playoffs and, all this crazy stuff, making the play-ins. And this ain't what longevity really is. Dude ain't been winning so if you think about 16 and then you think about, hell, if you think about 14, 13, 16, and 20. Those weren't like dominant, convincing championships, right? Not like, oh, he won that convincingly, like 4-2, right? No. Or when in 14, when he got the hell beat out of him, that was convincingly, right? When he got the hell beat out of him in 11 in the finals, and they beat him 4-2, that was convincingly. Okay, 07, when they beat the hell out of him in the finals, that was convincingly. When 15, he got the hell beat out of him in the finals, that was convincingly. 17, when they got beat 4-1, they beat him convincingly. And same thing when we talk about 18. Most of his championships were not dominant. He's the one that always got dominated. The only one that was dominant was what? 2012. That's it. And again, that was on a super team. You have teams that dominated him in the finals that didn't have a super team. I mean, 2 times they had a super team, but what? See, like I said, a super team to me is when you come together other teams' number 1 franchise players, like we had Barkley, Clyde, Hakeem, like we had who is this? To me, this was a super team too. You had Shaq, you had Magic. You had Shaq, you had Alonzo Mourning and Peyton, and you had Dwayne Wade. You had Ray Allen, you had Paul Pierce, and you had Garnett. That's a super team. These are other teams' number 1 franchise players. You had Barkley, you had Pippen, you had Hakeem. That's a super team. We wouldn't really say that really because Scottie Pippen wasn't another team's number 1 franchise player. Scottie Pippen was a sidekick. He was a number 2. So when we go to the Spurs that beat him 2 times, LeBron James, that wasn't a super team. In 15, that wasn't a super team that beat LeBron James. Okay, but when we go to 16, when LeBron James beat that same team the next year, LeBron James was on a super team, so he needed a super team to be a non-super team. When we look at OKC, that wasn't other teams' number 1 franchise players. Ain't nobody knew what the hell they were going to amount to. Although they amounted to top 75 players, the majority of them are choke artists in the biggest moments. Right? And could never lead a team nowhere. But he needed a super team to be a non-super team. OKC won a super team. These were guys out of the draft, folks. So finally, when 17-18 came, it was boo-hoo and all these tears from Stephen A. Smith about the 17 and 18 super team. How could he ever make the weakest move of all time? Suddenly, it's the weakest move of all time that somebody else did it. And to me, that wasn't even a super team. Let's be real. Again, other teams' number 1 franchise players. I want a super team. Especially other teams' number 1 franchise players in their prime. Where's the super team? So you got Kevin Durant and you got Curry. 2 other teams' number 1 franchise players. Can you spot out the other guy? Because Kobe played with Paul Gasol, which was another team's number 1 franchise player. We don't consider him being on the super team, just him and Paul Gasol. And we can name some other great pieces that was on that team that Kobe played with, but those weren't other teams' number 1 franchise players. So you're trying to say Draymond Green is another team's number 1 franchise player? or Klay Thompson? No. So they're trying to convince you that because Kevin Durant came over there, let's say they take Kevin Durant, let's say they take Klay off that team. Is that still a super team? You probably would say no, right? Okay, let's just say if they traded Klay for Durant, right? So you're trying to tell me Klay could have went somewhere and led a team? No. Klay was just drafted. Klay was a Robin. He wasn't a team's number one franchise player. So in essence, LeBron James never played a super team. So you guys are trying to turn Hall of Famers, a guy just because a guy's going to make a Hall of Fame or had a Hall of Fame resume, part of a super team. This is what the LeBron James fans do because he went and built super teams to win. Dennis Rodman was not another team's number one franchise player. In essence, the Detroit Pistons didn't have a super team. Those guys were drafted. Okay, you could say Adrian Dantley. Okay, but that's two guys. Two other teams' number one franchise players. And when I say another team's number one franchise player, I mean, you would recognize him being, he's already had like a Hall of Fame career, or he's got like a pathway of going to the Hall of Fame. He's that great. So you still wouldn't. I mean, Dennis Rodman, Joe Dumars, they were drafted. To me, it's a thin line between a super team and a non-super. So when you get on a super team like that, and you build a super team like that, you don't have any leaders. We talk about the Big Three Celtics, 2008. Who led that team? Nobody. They all led each other to a championship. That was it. When we think about the Heat Big Three, who led that team to a championship? Nobody. They all led each other. They were all number ones. I'm just saying, man. We should make you talk about rewriting history. I just rewrote it again. How about that? I just rewrote it back to its where it needs to be in its correct content or context. So I don't know. To me, I don't think the Pacers are going to sit there and want to go on vacation like the Celtics. The NBA is a weird place. And I would say Vegas wins again. I say that when I go to work every morning. Because most of the guys I work with, they're silly enough to put their money on this trash, which is sports in period, sports in general, but the NBA. If you think sports gambling is on the up and up, just watch the NBA. That's all you need to know. A league that makes 0 sense at all. You're better going with the dog, because none of this stuff makes any sense at all. What's been going on in these playoffs, how it's been going down, any of it. Because I don't see no dominant team, and I don't see even a dog. They don't even look that good. There's like a lot of funny stuff going on. I don't know, man. This is going to be, a lot of talk for the ages. Pacers versus the Knicks. Well, this ain't the Pacers versus the Knicks of the old, man. It just, I know that, ESPN and all these debate groups and all this stuff, they're going to try to make it seem like it's the old Pacers and the Knicks. I guess. Or I don't guess. Well, I would say both teams are scrappy. I'll give them that. Both of these teams used to be, scrappy. I guess you can say that. They had heart. They had, grit. And, I guess you can look at it like this. They weren't great shooters. The Knicks in the 90s, the Pacers in the 90s weren't known to be a great shooting team. And to me, these aren't great shooters. On the Knicks and the Pacers, right now, they're not great shooters. Yes, okay, they hit more threes. Now, well, that's the only shot they take. That's the only shot they take. So, um, who do I have in this series? I can't even tell you, man. This is weird. Truthfully, I got the Pacers. I got the Pacers. You know, you got Turner, you got what's this guy's name? I'm about to say Ibaka. I can't remember the guy's name. To me, if they play both of these guys, these bigs, which I don't know if they will, because I think they might want to rotate them, you know, so they don't burn them out. Siakam, but if they play both of them, oh man, it's going to be a problem. And then you got the other three guys that can shoot on the perimeter. I don't know, man. I just don't think the Knicks have enough. I don't think the Knicks have enough. The way we saw them dog out the Cavs, they were dogging them out, man, at times. And both series were kind of like the same. You know, you had the Knicks coming back with 5 minutes to go. Then in a lot of games, you had the Pacers coming back with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It was kind of like the same thing. And then you had one game that was a blowout with the Pacers. Pacers blew the Cavs out in one game. And then you had the Knicks blow Boston out in this game. And at times, you had the Cavs giving up. And you had Boston giving up. And then you had, I think the Cavs blew them out one game. They blew out the Pacers one game. And then we saw, I think, what was it, Game 5, Boston blew out the Knicks in one game. But I don't know, man. They just, to me, I seen something in the Pacers I just didn't see in the Knicks. I mean, not in the Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks. They just seem to be, I don't know, man. They just wanted more. They just seem to be more faster, scrappier. I think they got better shooters. You know, like I said, I think Turner and Siakam, I think they're going to be they're going to be the difference on the boards. To me, we'll see, man. I mean, this is, if the Knicks lose this series, which I think they will, you got to get Jalen Brunson some help. You got to trade Karl Anthony Towns. You got to get rid of him, because I would have took more of a healthy Julius Randle this year than Karl Anthony Clown. And I know, you know, it's hard to say because this is like the first time Julius Randle's been even healthy. Like, where the hell did this guy come from? Because he wasn't playing like this for the Knicks. This guy always had a boo-boo. But now he's with Minnesota. He's out there, you know, at times outballing Anthony Edwards, carrying Anthony Edwards. So this is going to be interesting to see how, you know, Halliburton is going to be able to contain Brunson on the perimeter, which I don't think is going to happen. You would think it'd be like a size advantage, but Jalen Brunson, he can get past anybody. This dude, you gotta give him some help. I don't know how this guy ain't in the MVP race, but you know, a lot of times he can't do a lot of stuff besides score. So it assists the ball, and I don't even think he did that at a higher rate. So it's going to be interesting right here what we see in this series. So tell me what you think.